Alright, what's up, y'all? It's the Crimson Prince here. Today I'm just going to talk about Bernie Sanders, and this is specifically for anybody that follows politics, and specifically for Bernie supporters out there, alright? So let me preface this by saying this is not a political video. This is just calling things the way I see it right now. And if you disagree with me, feel free to disagree with me, but this is the way I see things, right? So I'm gonna just tell a little story real quick. So I remember back in 2016, I was in high school, man. The campaigns were starting up, especially, I've been hearing about Bernie Sanders all the time from my friends and people at school. I went to a pretty liberal school, so it was no surprise that his name came up a lot, right? And so people were telling me about the issues that he stood for, wealth inequality, climate change, student loan debt, issues that really resonated with the young people, you know what I mean? So I was on board, because I didn't hear any other candidate talking about this. I've been hearing, Trump's the boogeyman, and all of that, right? So, as a kid, I was like, all right, shoot, I never really cared about politics. Bernie Sanders, man, this guy seems legit. This guy seems one of a kind. I'm gonna hop aboard the train, you feel me? So that's what I did, right? And, fast forward to the debate. So him and Hillary Clinton, right? The moderator asked a question. And keep in mind, I knew a lot about what he could have exploited, prior to this debate. I was getting into the game of politics. I saw, what Trump was doing to, attack members of the Democratic Party. And I thought, okay, well, I didn't like Trump at the time, so Bernie Sanders, he could have done the same thing, touched on those same talking points that Trump used to attack Hillary, right? So I was like, okay, he got the email servers, he got the failed foreign policy endeavors that happened during the Obama administration, as Secretary of State, how she basically compromised nations, destabilized nations in the Middle East. So the moderator asked the question, what do you make of, all these talking points people are making, some along these lines, about Hillary's emails, and what do you make of that, essentially? That was the question, about Hillary's emails, right? And he goes up there and he says, quite frankly, I think the American people are tired about hearing about your emails, and some others, whatever else he said, some unity, Democratic Party, whatever, all right? And at that point, I was like, what the hell? Like, is this guy trying to win? Like, why would you say that? You had the perfect question, given to you on a silver fucking platter, and you go up there and you talk about some fucking unity? Is this the establishment that you're trying to help win, or is this the establishment that you want to be up against, or that you claimed you were up against? I mean, I didn't quite understand it. I was like, okay, wow, this is not, I didn't think this was a winning strategy by him to take that approach, but whatever. And then, long story short, we all knew what happened. He gets basically screwed over by the DNC. We saw, what the information that came out. I don't want to say the words, new YouTube channel. I don't want to get compromised right away by the algorithm or whatnot. But we know what happened. And he didn't say a word about it, essentially. He didn't take a stand. He didn't stand up for himself. He didn't really stand up for his supporters or anything like that. And he goes, after Hillary gets the nomination, he just goes right back around and endorses her. After he was basically screwed, big time. Not only him, but his supporters, a huge portion of the Democratic Party was screwed over, essentially neglected by the DNC, that political machine that really seemed to care nothing more than to have their candidate of choice, not about what the American people wanted, not about what the Democratic Party and their constituents really wanted as a whole. They basically rigged the nomination for Hillary, essentially. And then he goes back and endorses her, and I was like, okay. I fell off the train at that point. I was like, well, he couldn't be president anyway. So I was like, wow, he fumbled the bag. He choked. And then look at 2020. We all know what happened in 2020. We all know what happened in Iowa. And from that point on, I knew, okay, this is a charade. This has got to be some sort of game, you know what I mean? The media's been attacking Bernie and even his supporters, like, even worse than in 2016. You have other candidates basically stealing his platform, so now it's harder for him to win anyway, and he was still the front runner, but it was harder for him to stand out as a candidate and have that same sort of fervor that he had in 2016. And during this whole time, I didn't hear him take a stand against the media. I didn't hear him take any really, take aggressive political, employ aggressive political tactics to tackle on, to take on, Joe Biden and other candidates that were essentially, stealing his platform and portraying themselves as progressives when they're really not. Hint, hint, Elizabeth Warren. And he just went right along with the Russia narrative about 2016, when really we know who screwed you over, Bernie. People who know, we know who screwed you over, and it wasn't no Russians. Okay, let's just put it that way. So, that's it, man. Like, I think at the end of the day, Bernie Sanders is not a fighter. Bernie Sanders was not willing to do what it takes to win, not only for himself, but for his people. More importantly, the American people that had his back for 2 election cycles. And, that whole game they played, all the endorsements for Joe Biden, and then, of course, Bernie endorses him, right? And I was thinking, in hindsight, why would he join the Democratic Party again? I mean, he had to have known this would happen again. Why would he run and support all these issues that he so cared about so much? Medicare for all, really being, someone who cared about addressing the wealth inequality, against the corruption, against the so-called establishment. And he brought along a lot of people aboard the ship, you know what I mean? And he let it sink, and he hopped right off and took a lifeboat. And everyone sank with the ship. That's basically what happened. I think there's a good chance he was complicit in the whole charade that the DNC pulled. My bad, it's hot as hell in here. Ooh, I'm sweating like a fucking fountain. But anyways, I think there's a good chance he knew what was going to happen. And, there's this whole narrative that the DNC dislikes Bernie Sanders, that the establishment dislikes Bernie Sanders. Well, I disagree. I think they actually liked him. They liked him because he funneled in votes. They liked him because he was able to retain a lot of those far-left voters, a lot of those youth voters that, even if he did drop out and endorse the establishment candidate, they would stick along. They would stick with the whole Democratic Party anyway. So he's able to, basically be a magnet for a lot of voters. And even when he endorsed the establishment, they would stay on for the ride. Not all of them, obviously, but a lot of them. So, I'm not saying Bernie's a bad person. Who knows? Maybe they had dirt on him. Maybe he's just too old, and he was like, screw this shit. You know what I mean? I'm here to make my money. I've been in the game for 30 years. He's not an outsider, by the way. He's been a 30-year career politician. Get my check and fade off into the sunset. A lot of people are going to think that I'm still, this noble figure, this savior figure. I'm not saying people see him as a savior, but I'm saying the person that championed a lot of these issues and brought it to the forefront. But a lot of those issues, are they at the forefront? Is Medicare for all at the forefront? Is relieving all student loan debt really at the forefront? Or is it all just Trump this, Trump that with Biden? He could have ran as a third party with the Libertarians, with the Green Party, who knows? That would have really implemented change. Even if he lost, that would have created some real change that the Democratic Party would have had to adapt to and really try to sell, make an effort to sell and implement those policies. But he didn't do that. So at the end of the day, Bernie Sanders was pretty much a simp. He was a political simp. I hate to put it that way, but I think the parallels are pretty clear. He gets cheated twice, basically. He comes right back. He kisses ass, essentially, and fades right back off into the sunset. Like in every, like people aren't aware of what really happened. I think a lot of people are aware, and I'm here to make more people aware of what possibly happened and where Bernie's role is within the whole DNC and their whole agenda and their whole scheme and how they want to go about trying to win this nomination and the policies that they really want to implement. So there's my 2 cents, pretty much. If you disagree with me, feel free to disagree with me. I don't really care. This is just the way I see things. And, who knows? Maybe Bernie just choked. Maybe he just doesn't have the political chops to get things done. You know what I mean? But either way, I don't think he's a fighter. And the point I'm really trying to make with this video is that you cannot rely, especially on career politicians, to make changes for you. You know, you have to look within yourself if you really want to make changes in this world. It starts with you as a person, as an individual. You cannot rely on people who may or may not fit into a whole charade, you know, who may or may not be part of an overall bigger scheme to, you know, basically implement an agenda under the radar and just pretty much go under the nose of all the American people and the voters and you as an individual. They have all the tools they can to con you. They have all the ability in the world to basically use the media when necessary and sell you a dream. So basically looking to change for yourself, call things as you see it. You know, I'm not saying what I said in this video is 100% true. I believe it's true, but who knows, I could be wrong. But I think when you connect the dots, it's pretty clear. So there's my 2 cents. Thanks for watching this video. Crimson Prince checking out. Subscribe for more. Stay tuned. It's a lot of fun. And I'll see you around for the next one.